finding the goal, and that goal is lose weight. But really, what most people mean is they want to look better naked. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Better Basics podcast. I'm Matt Stone, as always, with Dylan Walteter. Dylan, we're back for episode 3. So for all of you guys that listened to our second episode, we introduced you into, just kind of a ways to get started with getting into fitness or getting back into it. And at the end of the episode, we gave you guys our free basic home workout program. But, Dylan, you and I, we both actually got back into fitness with working out at home. It's a really convenient way to integrate that habit back into your lifestyle. But, we both kind of ran into some walls over there. And, so that's what we wanted to talk about next, is taking those principles and bringing them into a gym.
Yeah, you bet. It was shout out to Aubrey Marcus and the I at 6 program, I think, that we followed pretty religiously. Really good program for getting that heartbeat up. I think there's some homes that I rented over the years that have some stains in the hardwood floor from all the sweat that I put onto those floors from those programs. And like you said, there was a lot we got out of it. Certainly got into better cardiovascular shape and got a good workout from it. But I think as we transitioned further in our fitness journeys, found ourselves kind of getting away from that high intensity interval sort of training as a singular modality, right? There's certainly still value that you can get from training in that fashion, but really found ourselves finding the most benefit from a good strength training program. And that Better Home program that we already shared is an at-home version of a good strength training program. And I think today we want to talk some more about what it means to get into the gym, what it means to do strength training, but also talk a bit about some of those other training modalities, right? There's a lot of different ways you can approach fitness. I think there's a place where most people begin. And oftentimes it's not the best place to start. If you go back far enough, Matt, I remember living with you in Madison and running that route. We did a lot of cardio and running along Lake Monona. You always whooped my ass. I remember having one time running back along the lake there, and you were pushing me and you got out ahead, and I stopped and had a bit of a throw up next to the lake there. So there's all these different things, right? There's cardio, there's running, there's biking, there's high intensity interval training, there's strength training. I think there's a lot of, at least for me early on, a lot of confusion about what they all mean and what they all benefit. So let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah. So what's the first thing that when anybody says, I'm going to get back in shape, the first thing they do, everybody, they do the same thing. They say, I'm doing it. Today's the day. Yep. And so they go into the closet, they dust off their old running shoes, they lace them up, and they just start going.
Pound pavement.
Maybe do a little bit of light stretch beforehand, but they run, and they generally try to run about as far as they used to run back when they ran more regularly. Mm-hmm. And it leads to frustration. It leads to major delayed onset muscle soreness. It leads to, just all kinds of potential joint issues, sprains, tweaks, those types of things. But it's the first thing that everybody does. The other thing that everybody does is they go and drop into a HIIT class, or they go into YouTube and they type in 15-minute cardio circuit because they don't want to do anything. They think an hour is too long to be exercising. So they go for something less time, when really all you're doing with less time is just upping the intensity. And that sounds great in theory, and for a trained individual, it is an awesome way to get a killer workout in right away. But I mean, you and I both know, having done both of those things, running and interval training, it leads to, there's some issues that come with that.
No doubt. And I think maybe a better place for people to start is to think about what's the goal that I'm ultimately after, and then to align the training modality with the goal. And I think for most people, what they want to achieve in most cases is weight loss, right? We know from the studies that obesity rates are increasing significantly. They've tripled since 1975. There's a number of different reasons for that. I was just telling you before we started recording, I saw a reel from Ben Carpenter, a guy on Instagram, really good content. And he was talking about how these obesity rates have increased. They're at like 35% in America and rising, which is wild. But simultaneously, all the research shows that people are trying harder than ever to lose weight. They're dieting more than ever, and they're exercising more than ever. So people are putting in the effort, but they're not realizing the outcomes that they're after. And some of that has to do with the availability of ultra processed foods and how common it is in the standard diet. Some of it has to do with our jobs being more sedentary, sitting at a desk, driving to and from work instead of walking. But from the fitness side of things, I think it has a lot to do with what you just laid out. People start with cardio and they start with high intensity interval training. And those modalities are good for certain goals. But if your goal is weight loss, there's probably some better things you can do. Or further, if your goal is body recomposition, which I think some people conflate with weight loss, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes what you really want to do is just put on a little more muscle to get that body fat percentage down. But ultimately, thinking about what do you want to achieve and then aligning the type of exercise you're doing with that goal is so critically important. In cardio, in high intensity interval training, we're not here to suggest that they're bad. They're very good for certain things. They're great for cardiovascular health. They're good for general health. If they're used correctly, they can be good for joint health and other things. But if your goal, like so many people, is to lose weight and or achieve some sort of body recomposition, there may be better modalities. And that's what strength training is about. That's what that Better Home program is about. And that's really where, Matt, you have some expertise that can help people to get into strength training. So what is strength training? Define that for us.
Well, I want to actually, I mean, I'll get there, but I want to spend a minute talking about what you just said, because I digging into that a little bit deeper, because I think, we talk about, creating all these habits and doing all these, these great things, these routines, these programs that we go through. But if the mindset isn't there, then it's going to be harder to make those positive long-term changes. And we're going to spend lots of time digging into mindset, as we get deeper into the podcast. But very basically, I mean, you said people's goal, when finding the goal, and that goal is lose weight. But really, what most people mean is they want to look better naked. When they take their shirt off at the end of the day, they want to look better. And it feels like, man, if I didn't have this 10 pounds, like hanging over my gut, or 20 or 40, whatever it is, 60, but it's not even about that number, or at least that isn't what most people are really after. It's about changing the way their body looks. Mm-hmm. And if you ask most people, would you rather lose, 10 pounds and look the same way you do, or stay the same weight and look healthier, look stronger, look more muscular, they're going to take that any day of the week. Mm-hmm. And so I think starting with that, that thought, when you are getting into this, understanding that me weighing myself as a metric of success on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis, whenever, however often you choose to make that check-in, that's not going to be the most accurate indicator of success for, for body composition. It's way more how you look, how you feel, what type of numbers are you moving in the gym, or if you're doing an at-home thing or a body weight thing, how many more reps can you do than you did the week before? So making sure that the goal is actually in line with what you really are after, not just what you feel like you're after. So I mean, I loved the way that you wove that in. I just felt like it was worth
Yeah,
worth
no doubt.
expanding.
I'm glad you said all that. I think personally, I've 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 weighed everything from 155 pounds all the way up to 190 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
and looked differently throughout that journey. But when I felt really good was when I was a little bit stronger, but my waist size was relatively the same at 185 as it was at 165, which is
Mm-hmm.
really pretty incredible to think about. So it's the body composition piece that's so key, right? Like you can really transform the way your body looks without maybe losing any weight or with putting a little bit of muscle on. So the scale's not going to go anywhere. And I've personally experienced and seen that. I think that you probably have as well. And so just to kind of reframe the way we think about the fitness journey, to be clear on what our goals are. Do I want to lose? Some people do want to lose weight because they're currently at a weight that is unhealthy to go about life. And
It just
so
doesn't feel good.
it
It
doesn't
doesn't feel
feel
good.
good, or their doctors telling them that they're more at risk for certain health outcomes as a result
Mm-hmm.
of their weight. And in that case, losing weight first is probably a good idea. But a lot of our buddies, who spend a lot of time on the couch drinking beer, and not a lot of time moving or doing any kind of exercise at all. It's not even so much that they need to lose weight. They just need to think about how do I achieve some level of body recomposition in the interest of being a bit more healthy? And there's a lot of ways to achieve that. The best of which I think, and I know you think and have found to be strength training, which we can get into more and define and talk about why that works. But the goal, what is the goal? Think about that first, and then let's align what we're going to do to achieve that goal in the best way possible.
Totally. Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess to get back to to your original question, what is my definition of strength training? It's any sort of movement where you are, um, where you're coming up against resistance, where you're facing resistance, and you are moving that load, and that can be in any direction. It can be in with all different kinds of bases of support. But the fundamentals of strength training is taking something heavy and moving it to a different position. And it is that simple sometimes. Even you think about an exercise as effective as like a farmer's carry, where you literally are just picking up something heavy and carrying it, to the other side of the room or gym or field, wherever you are. And you think about all of the different benefits that you get from literally just picking up something heavy and moving it, across the room. But that can be as complex as a barbell snatch. It can be something as stable, as externally stable as leg press, or a chest fly, or any of those machines that you see at the YMCA or whatever Planet Fitness that you go to. So strength training doesn't just have to be dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, and moving heavy shit. It's a lot. There's a lot more to it. Strength training is even body weight if done properly. You don't even it's not my favorite way to strength train, because it takes a lot of reps and some really challenging positions that you got to put your body in. But you don't even need to have all of those those external equipment to make an effective routine.
Especially if your baseline, if where you're starting from is zero, right?
Yeah, good.
So the piece of strength training that I think is interesting to me is somebody who spent years at the YMCA on the chest press machine and doing tricep push downs and otherwise, is I'd go there and I wasn't really strength training. I was sort of strength exercising, right? And there's benefit to that for sure. But the training piece has a lot to do with some structure to ensure that as you are lifting heavy things or pushing against resistance, that you're doing so in a way that progressively improves, right? In the fitness space, they call it progressive overload. And so if you're going from your couch, a really good place to start oftentimes is just with your body weight. If you
Oh
haven't
yeah.
done anything to give resistance to your muscles, a great way to do that without having to get into the gym and just to ensure that you're getting sort of the basics movements down and those sorts of things is just to do it at home. It's approachable. It's a great place to start. You know, I've been training now for multiple years, but I still use it from time to time because it's convenient. And so that, again, we keep referencing that at-home program that we shared, that free program. That's a great way to think about just, I haven't done any strength training in a decade or however long it's been. And I want to get off the couch and I just want to do a little more to add some resistance to my muscles to train them in a progressive way. And I think we're going to offer some tools and maybe additional programming to continue to grow from there. But you don't have to, you can't climb the mountain immediately. It's done step by step. And step one is really just to get started on a program, right? To train your muscles, not simply just to exercise them. Do you want to talk a bit more maybe about the training aspect of strength?
Well, yeah, I mean, so the majority of my clients, I'm not one of these trainers where the majority of the people that I work with are. I don't work really with, high level athletes. I work with regular men and women, the majority of which are working, one, maybe two jobs. And they have, a lot of them were ex-athletes, whether in high school or college, but have fallen out of it over the last few years. Some people don't have any background, and but they know, they've most of them have tried various, online programs, or this online coach or that, that system. I bought these bands or these supplements, whatever the case may be, and none of them worked. And so they need something that is more in line with where they're starting. And so for the majority of my clients, we're not moving, first off, we're not touching a barbell or, early, that's one of the last, for beginners, barbells really are only good, in my opinion, when you're ready to move some weight. If you are a newly trained individual or somebody getting into fitness for the first time, those free weights and cable machines are going to be your best friend. And then once you start to get proficient with some of those movements, then of course, there's no better way to add load than to, get under a barbell and see how much weight you can actually move. But I think people want to just start there. And so most of my clients, we're starting just working on, the basic movements, push, pull, hinge, squat. And with that squat, it's, a lot of times with some external support, whether it's, dowels in a split squat or some heel elevation for a goblet squat, maybe even bringing it down to a bench. There are all of these modifications that we make early on because I'm trying to set up my clients for long-term success and not just try to get them. And that's another, reprogramming of the mind, getting that mindset thing where this isn't something that in 1 week, you're going to have these, like lose 10 pounds in 10 days. Of course we can make that happen, but that's not sustainable. And you're not actually learning anything. You're just, hitching onto another fad that's not going to take. And so breaking down these movements and making them as simple as possible to the point where it is almost, boring. If you ask most strength training, most people who strength train regularly, most, men and women that you see in the gym, they're not doing these wildly intricate exercises and movements. It's, if you watch them work, it's the same movements over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And it would make you sick. But, like that's it. It's falling in love with that process, or at the very least, you know, just understanding that my mind resisting, you know, this same program over and over again, is because my mind is trying to prevent me from making those gains, making that progress. It wants to put you in a more comfortable situation or do something different. And so, you know, we gotta, you know, it's all about figuring out where you're at and developing a program that is, you know, that meets you there,
Yeah.
instead of trying to force yourself into this box that you want to be in eventually.
Yeah, to that last point, I mean, I think now, after, 10 years of trying to figure out how to train effectively, probably 12 to 15 different exercises that I do every single week.
Mm-hmm.
And my sole goal is just to get a little bit better at them every time I get in the gym. It really can be that basic. And that I think is what good training will guide you towards, while keeping it interesting and fun and ensuring that it's something that you want to do. We've got a friend, Justin, shout out Justin. He's one of these guys who former high school athlete. He's like a weirdly athletic guy in college.
He used to be able to dunk, couldn't he?
He there was a time in college where he assured me that if I made a bet with him and gave him enough time, he'd be able to dunk a basketball. He never got close. But in intramural basketball, we referred to him as a wet noodle. He's kind of like he's like weirdly athletic in kind of like
Yeah.
this kind of way. But he recently reached out and wanted to get back into the gym, and just as to one of the points you made previously around kind of improving, you don't have to climb Everest tomorrow, right? We can grow towards that barbell and get to a place where we know that barbell well and can move it effectively. But he wanted a barbell back squat. And so we put the bar on his back, no weight. And as he went into his descent, he was immediately on his tiptoes, bending over, very clear that he didn't have the mechanics to do that. And we quickly just kind of talked through that we can get there. We don't need to be there right now. Let's grab a dumbbell, let's front load, let's elevate the heels a bit, let's teach you proper squat mechanics. You can get stronger doing that in progressing to the barbell. And so what good programming will do, whether it's out of the box, off the shelf, which I think we have to offer, or through working with you as an expert to really tailor and refine it, it's very much just about continually improving and ensuring that the training aspect, right, the programming of it offers you a scaled sort of progression to do so. And that's
looking at each of these movements as a skill. You know, these are skills that need to be learned. They're not exercises to be done.
Right.
You know, I can set up a client on a leg press machine and just have them go nuts until they can't do any more leg presses. And that's going to get their legs stronger for sure. But there isn't as much real world application for that movement because of all the external stabilization. So you think about something that is very practical in the real world, a squat or the hinge, either one, take your pick. But in this, you're talking about Justin, talking about the squat specifically, it is a movement that we have bastardized, and we have just really just destroyed by not doing it and not teaching it properly for years and years. And then you think all of a sudden, well, of course, I should be able to squat, and I can definitely lift 45 pounds. Yeah, give me that bar, no problem.
You want to know why we can so confidently say that you're supposed to be able to squat? I mean, you've got a young son.
Yeah.
I watch our other buddies, young kids, run around. Those kids will squat down into a perfect squat. They're 2 years old. They're just learning to walk, and they'll sit in that squat and play for hours. It's just a natural movement, and we lose it by sitting in these chairs with our shoulders rolled forward and the like. But yeah, to your point, a lot of these stuff is it's just fundamental human movement, and by practicing it, you can relearn it, and then you can load it and get stronger at it, and
then you're not going to get hurt.
No,
because that's the thing is you could, I guarantee if Justin really wanted to, or didn't have didn't have you there with him, he could have put, he could have put 50 more pounds on that bar. He
Sure.
could have fought through a squat. He may have even been able to do twice that,
Yep.
but, and then he, all of a sudden that's his baseline. I can squat that, but squatting it with what kind of form, where is the load going? What type of, what type of angle is your shin at, where is your hip dipping into, and how is your spine being braced? And so, you can just limp through an exercise and not actually treat it as a skill that needs to be learned. But then there will become a time where you're going to get hurt. It's inevitable because you're using your body improperly, and that machine will break. And so, what we, this is another, shout out John Wolf, in the Onnit crew. Actually, he just got a new gig. You see that?
Oh, no,
You
I
see
didn't.
that? Yeah, I can't remember the company. I'll figure it out. But it's a company I never heard of, but they brought John Wolf on to be their chief exercise specialist, whatever. But
Yeah.
John is the creator of the Onnit 6 programs, and his mantra was always the best ability is availability.
Yeah.
And especially as we get older, we're early 30s. But I see clients that are into their 70s, and everybody, I think once you kind of hit that, late 20s, it starts to dawn on you like, holy shit, I'm mortal. And if I break, it's a problem.
Yeah.
If you're working, you don't have time to just be laid up with a, broken arm or leg, and if you're talking about training, how far that sets you back, and getting back into that swing just becomes harder and harder the older that you get. Yep. So it becomes more and more important as we get older to be more aware of the positions we're putting our bodies in, because we don't have as much leeway as you may have in your, in your single digits, your teens and your 20s, Yeah. And so it becomes super important to either have, to do the research, to look at it as a skill, and the onus becomes on you to find a good training partner and watch good YouTube videos and listen to good voices in the space, or and this would obviously be my advice. It's self-serving, but I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. But finding a trainer that vibes with your goals, yeah, is worth their weight in gold. And you don't even have to train with them forever. That's what I tell most of my clients. Because I have all my clients sign on for at least it's a 3-month starting package, because we gotta learn the movements. It takes time to build the foundation before we can really get going. But the other reason is because if I have 3 months with somebody, I know that at the end of those 3 months, even if I only see them once a week, most of my clients I see 2 to 3 times a week, but some are just once. And if I see them just once a week for 3 months, for 13 weeks, then I know by the end of that, they will know how to squat, they will know how to hinge, they will have a good basis of pushing and pulling exercises, and they'll have all of the background, the basic background knowledge and programming knowledge that they need to go and have success in the gym. Now they might want, it might not be quite enough for them, or, maybe they're not self-motivated enough to stick with it, and that's where, where you can continue to check in with a coach. But you need to make sure that, unless this is something that you are super passionate about, and you also have people that are there to be there with you, yeah, it's you got to make sure that you have that support system, because otherwise you are opening yourself up to just injuries, and stupid injuries, things that can be avoided by just fixing the movement a little bit.
Yeah. What is it? Give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for life.
There it is.
Sort of along that kind of mantra, no doubt. So look, I think we've talked about a few different ways to exercise, modalities of fitness. We've talked about cardio. We've talked about high intensity interval training. We've talked about strength training. is there anything else you'd add to kind of this menu of different ways that you could potentially train or approach fitness?
Oh, well, I mean, there's the list can go on and on. I mean, there's yoga, and even in yoga, there's your vinyasa flows, your heated practices. There's your booty. There's Bikram, and then there's more of like the yin and hatha. There's trapeze. There's all of that there, and that has its own kind of yoga crew, kind of yoga cult, which I go to a yoga studio once a week. I freaking love it, but I would go crazy if that was my only form of exercise. It's intense in its own way, and we'll do a whole episode on yoga versus strength training later. But we think that flexibility is one of these things that has to be achieved by long holds of muscle. And while there definitely is benefit to some of those more static holds, the best stretches that I found are honestly within strength training movements. That bottom of a squat, doing pause squats, lightweight goblet squats with a pause at the bottom. There's that is an excellent stretch. Thinking about any sort of overhead movement, there's, and doing it with proper form, you're getting your mobility, in with it. So, I just think you see a lot of these yogis who are too, they're too flexible. They're too flexible for their strength, and then they can get in these positions where their body is able to get there, but it's not strong enough to to hold itself up there. And that can be problematic too. And I think especially for women, that's a space where a lot of women fall into, because it's yoga is marketed primarily towards women, and the majority of the teachers are women. And then you look at all these accounts on YouTube and Instagram, it's just these gorgeous bodies that are able to to bend and shape into all these different positions. But it's one of those things where that's a lifetime worth of work that they put in to get there. There is no 30-day program that's going to get you to that level of flexibility.
Yeah. Right. And flexibility, mobility, what's the difference? I mean, mobility is essentially just functional flexibility, right? The ability.
Yeah, it's strength at the end range of motion.
Yeah, totally. So we got cardio, we got high intensity interval, we got strength training, we got mobility, flexibility, kind of yoga. There's benefits to all these things, right? So it's important to know that you can borrow from all of these in a way.
Well, do we want to talk about the C word? Do we want to say the C word too? I mean, there's one system, that is absolutely, has taken the nation by storm over, I don't know, maybe it's been 10 years already. But it's CrossFit, and CrossFit is another one of those culty exercise modalities where there really is a ton of good about it. And so actually, let me start by saying the things that I like about CrossFit. I love the community aspect. I think that's badass. I also think, as far as what CrossFit has done for women in the gym, has been massive. You see, I can't think of a time where you see more women jacked up about strength training and talking about their PRs and this, that, and the other. And a lot of it is because they're hooked on CrossFit. They go to those boxes and do their WODs and whatever. And three, if you go to a good CrossFit facility, they will spend the first couple of weeks just making sure that form is dialed in. And so, for those, I love, I love CrossFit for those purposes. I think that the majority of their workouts are stupid and are unnecessarily difficult. But that's the type of person that goes there because they want to leave a workout feeling like, holy shit, I just survived a war.
Yeah.
You shouldn't feel that way when you're done working out.
No.
You should feel like, holy shit, I worked really hard. My muscles are tired, but like, I'm going to go on with my day. I have to go to work after this. I have a family that I need to interact with. I can't just go lay on my couch and be a bum the rest of the day. So, I think those guys are great. But I also have an issue with the systems that create these games. They literally created the CrossFit Games. They created a sport out of exercising, which is fun as hell to watch. It's super entertaining and really, really impressive.
Yeah.
But right now, it's happening right now. The CrossFit Open is, it's happening as we're recording this episode. And so you have amateurs from across the country, maybe even world, I would assume world, that are getting these insane workouts that are designed for them to fail. And then they are going out there and trying them twice this week.
Yeah.
And while I think that's awesome I love that people are going out there and trying as hard as they are, I worry like hell that, it's just a matter of time before it really is just a matter of time before an injury occurs. And then all of a sudden, all that progress is thrown out the window.
Yeah. And all CrossFit really is just strength training marketed a bit differently for a person that does feel like they need to sweat a bit more and or go after something a bit more aggressively. So a lot of the benefits.
It's for ex-athletes.
Right.
If you played a Division III sport or tried to walk on at a Division I school, you probably love CrossFit.
You're loving CrossFit. The last thing I want to touch on with regard to these different modalities, and then I think we should just talk about why strength training, in our opinion, is the best option for really everybody and anybody, no matter your goal. And we can talk about why that is I think it's important for the average person to know that each of these modalities is really good at marketing itself to the average person as the best modality. And a lot of times that looks like some sort of archetype of a person. And so you kind of hit on this already with the yogi, but you look at a runner, they have a certain body type. You look at a weightlifter, it's usually marketed as a bodybuilder with huge muscles, or a CrossFitter. You look at a yogi, they're very slender and flexible and maybe more of a toned body. It's really important to know that as those things are marketed to you, those are like the top 1 to 5% of any athlete in that given modality. And they didn't even necessarily train in that singular modality to achieve the way that they look. So, I think a lot of people make assumptions. Women, for example, that turned off by strength training because they feel like it's going to lead to some outlandishly muscular build, because the archetype they see is this, really strong man or woman. It's hard as shit to put on muscle. It's really, really hard to achieve that look. And so just important to know that like there are benefit in all of these different modalities, and that really to ultimately achieve the body composition that you're going for, it's not about leaning solely into one or the other, but rather the right recipe of them to ultimately achieve what you want to achieve, and really being realistic with regards to what that means and how you're going to get there.
Well, and understanding that one thing that every single one of those bodies have in common, except for maybe the runner. But if you look at the I guess it like if you're looking at those, top running influencers, even those guys have some muscle on them.
Yeah.
But like it all starts with building muscle. Every single one of those people are attractive to you because they have muscle. Now maybe the Ronnie Coleman bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia has more muscle than than you want. He's got more muscle. I don't want to be jacked like Ronnie Coleman.
Right.
But it's you don't get there just by lifting weights.
No, and
It's impossible.
Ronnie Coleman's eating 5,000 calories a day and taking all sorts of who knows what to achieve. I don't, Ronnie Coleman might be natural, but in any event, his whole goal is to get as large as possible. And
Right.
he's dedicated his life to it. So, and he's probably in the top 1% of genetics to get there.
Yeah, he's a freak anyways.
Right.
So I mean, I guess like the point is that the ideal body that you're searching for starts with adding muscle. I can pretty much say that across the board. There's nobody probably. I don't know how far of a reach this podcast has gotten, but I would assume that the majority of our listeners, 999 out of 1,000, if you just started with prioritizing muscle growth, adding some muscle, you are going to the fat will start to fall off easier. The pain, and because here's the other thing, it's not just about people that are, it's not just about fat loss, it's or looking better. It's people that are in pain, that don't know what to do. By getting stronger, by strengthening your muscles with a smartly designed, professionally designed program with somebody that is actually, making something for your body specifically, you can fix a lot of those aches and pains, that nagging low back tightness, that elbow, has prevented you from doing overhead presses, whatever it is, that creaky shoulder. Building muscle is only going to help all of those things. So it's one of those things where it seems almost too simple, and when we've kind of gone back and forth, we've gone back and forth on this for years now, is like, how in the weeds do we need to get with all this if the people that we're trying to talk to are pretty average?
Yeah.
Then I think it's safe to say that, like, if you just, like, no matter what's ailing you, starting to build some muscle is going to be the thing that is the catalyst. It's going to be the thing that's going to make you start feeling better.
100%. I mean, if you look at indicators of longevity, strength is like one of the top indicators for long life. Just grip strength tests. It's crazy to think about. I wrote down some notes here. These are all, and I should correct you on something you said in the first podcast. You said we're not scientists. I do have a master's in science, although it's
damn. Okay, Dylan's a scientist. I am not a scientist.
I'm not really a practicing scientist, though.
I have a bachelor's degree in radio, so
take that. That's in water policy, so it's not even real science. But there's all studies to back these benefits. Stronger and healthier joints, to your pain point. More muscle mass, more muscle function, better aesthetic. It's good for your heart health. It's good for your brain health. It's good for longevity and life quality. It's good for bone density. It increases your metabolism, and it improves mobility and flexibility. Mm-hmm. There are so many benefits to strength training, and it's important for achieving the goal you're after, whether it is weight loss or body composition, but it's even more important beyond that, just for general health. One of the main reasons I keep going to the gym is because of how good I feel mentally afterwards. If I'm having a tough day, go to the gym for 45 minutes, move some heavy shit. I feel way better. So long as I don't overtrain myself, I feel way better. I didn't find that with HIIT, right? I do my HIIT workout. I feel really good for about 10 minutes afterward because those endorphins are rushing. And an hour later, not good, like just exhausted, to your point, needing to hit the couch. So there are just countless benefits to strength training. If you are after weight loss or body composition, it is a much better strategy than cardio, which is the place that most people start. Our bodies are fascinating. They are incredible at adapting. And, you know, people approach cardio first. Constantly doing cardio is a good way to maybe quickly lose a little weight, because of moving more than you were previously will help to achieve a calorie deficit, which is ultimately necessary for losing weight. But calories are energy in your body, right? And cardio is telling your body to conserve more calories, to become more efficient with energy. So the more cardio you do over time, the more your body is going to adapt, because that's what your body does. You just have to give it what it needs to adapt in the way that you want it to. And then ultimately, the less calories that you need to do that type of exercise. You basically end up burning less calories and turning your body into a calorie storing machine. So to the point you made before, it can work for a little while, but if we're on a journey of sustainable weight loss or body recomposition or health, there's a better way to do that. And you'll find that in strength training. Go for a walk and start training your muscles. Muscle is the opposite. It's expensive. It costs more calories to maintain a muscular body than one without muscle. So you put some muscle on, you're now burning more calories just sitting at your desk, typing, responding to emails, than you were when you didn't have that muscle on it. So if your goal is weight loss or body composition, if your goal is to feel better, if your goal is you have some pain you want to relieve, if your goal is to be more mobile, strength training is the place to begin. And I feel strongly about it as somebody that's been through all of these modalities and have ultimately landed in this place now. And I know you feel strongly about it from the perspective both of an athlete and a trainer.
Check this analogy for me. See what you think.
All right, try it on.
Cardio is like buying crypto. You might get a quick gain, and then, but overall, like you're going to go back down to zero. Whereas this strength training is more like, buying your real estate and your long-term investment accounts, your index fund, where it's not looking sexy on a day-to-day basis, but over time, that compound interest is going to end up blowing your shitcoin out of the water, because you're actually making these long-term changes. So that, and that's something we'll do a deep dive cardio versus strength training at a later date. But, one of those arguments often in the cardio camp is the fact that, if you're looking at, your wearable, your Fitbit, whatever, you're going to have more calories lost on a 30-minute cardio circuit interval than you would during a 30-minute weightlifting session. Odds are you're probably
burned during the yes.
Right. But and we don't need to spend too much time on it now, but just understand that is true, but it's bullshit, because we're talking about long-term calorie burn and building muscle and what that ends up doing for you in the long run. So that it's just one of those important distinctions to make, where we're making these investments and doing we're thinking about exercise in the macro. We're never going to market a 10 pounds in 10 days fitness program. We're not going to offer a 30-day shred, 6-pack in 30 days. That's not going to be us, because it's disingenuous as fuck.
The guy who's selling you the 30-day shred took 30 years to get there. It's insane.
And steroids.
Yeah, and steroids. Yeah, right? It's crazy, but that's not who we are. That's not what we're here to sell you. I love the analogy. I think that's brilliant.
Thank you.
So if the people want to invest with us, and they've gone through the basic home program, and they want to take their strength training right? Not just exercising, not just going to the gym and kind of sporadically hitting a chest press or whatever it is, but really want to train towards building muscle to reap all these benefits. What's next? What comes after that basic home program?
Yes, wonderful segue. We just finished basic muscle. So same thing, same basic concept as basic home, but now we're taking it to the gym. So it's going to be it's a workout program that is 3 days a week. It's a 5 day program, but three days where you need to be in the gym. Dumbbells, it's mostly dumbbells. There is going to be, there is some cables, but if you are in a facility that doesn't have a cable machine, we offer variations for all of those exercises. And then it's progressing up to some dumbbell work. But the thing with this program is it's meant to be something that you could just continuously run. You could run this program for the rest of your life, and as long as you follow the guidelines that we have in the program, you're going to continue to progress. This is not something that has a cap to it, and it's something. It's basic. It's what we're after here. It's just one of those things where this is not anything that is going to be insanely Instagrammable. You're not going to be able to videotape, and people are going to be like, holy shit, that looks super cool, because they're all movements that we see at the gym every day. But it's about learning how to do them well, and it's learning how to scale them well so that you can actually get long-term benefits while staying healthy. So the program we just finished, go ahead.
Correct me before you close, just correct me if I'm wrong. You could also do this at home if you have some adjustable dumbbells and some bands, perhaps.
Oh, all you need is, you could do this entire program at home with dumbbells and yeah, a set of bands. As far as, and the only thing that will be your limitation is the weight. And say you only have dumbbells that go up to 35 pounds, we offer some adjustments, as far as reps and rep ranges that you need to be in if you don't have the dumbbells up to 120. So yeah, that's a good clarification. This is totally something where if you have a set of adjustable dumbbells or just a decent amount of dumbbells at home, and then we would recommend for sure a band set too. But I mean, shoot, you can find a comprehensive band set on Amazon for $20. So
yep. Cool. I love it. I think yeah, as you can maybe tell now, there's some progression to this, right? So I think we early on introduced who this is ultimately for. We love having these conversations. We want to get them in front of our friends, the people we love, the people like them. And we see this sort of progressive path as a way to go from nothing to something more. And as we continue, we'll get more into the weeds on some stuff, and we will continue to offer that something more for people that are interested in getting there. So stay tuned with us. This is super fun. Closing thoughts from you, Matt, on strength training.
Just get after it, man. But you have to do it intelligently. Just find a good program. Start with the basic home. That's free. And then if that resonates with you, try out the basic muscle, or find a local gym, go in there and see how your trainer, see how the trainers there feel about implementing a strength training program, and making sure that you're learning in a way that is scalable and not just something that is meant to get you these fast results that will not last. So that's it. If you guys, if you liked what we had to talk about, if you liked the information that we gave, give me a follow at The Basic Trainer on Instagram or Facebook. And that's where you can get more information on both the basic home and the basic muscle.
Awesome. Yeah. And if this out of the box stuff isn't for you, nobody better to build something tailored specifically to you than Matt. So
Appreciate that.
on this journey, we look forward to
Hey.
continuing the conversation.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.